This morning here, I'm getting ready to walk out. I'm hitting a bedding area. I don't know exactly where I'm going to set up yet, but it's quite a ways back. I'm hitting this bedding area that I've scouted in the past. We got a good wind for it. Haven't hunted this piece of property at all yet this year, at least this section of it, I should say. This is all kind of connected to a big piece that I've done a lot in over the years. So I'm getting ready to head out. Got my sweet under cabinet light that I added to my door for getting ready. Works out pretty nice. I like it. Area that I want to hunt. I staged up back there a couple 100 yards until it got light enough to see what I was doing coming in. And we got thick bedding all throughout here. We got this scrape right here. I had picked out this tree right here to set up in. We're right off the main walking trail here. And I really don't want to set up right on top of this scrape, but it's kind of the right spot to get decent shooting. And I'm kind of expecting if a buck's going to be set checking this downwind is over here, they'll be walking this trail or come right down this low ditch that runs parallel to the trail. So I'm just going to slip up this tree here, probably only like one stick high, just enough to get into these leaves here. And just sit here for a few hours this morning. And it's more of kind of like an observational set. Like I said, I haven't been in this section all year, so I just kind of want to be able to see what's going on. So I'm going to slip up this tree here right now. That's the main walking trail right there. It's 40 yards away. So I'm just barely in, but we got nice deer trails coming down through here. I expect I could definitely see a cruising buck coming down, paralleling that main walking trail, coming right down in through here. 25-yard shot. And then if it comes up through this point, 25, like 33. He was chasing a doe. I thought he was going to come up by me, so I didn't get to record him when I really got to see him the best. He was right down here about, 60 yards or so. He chased a really big doe right up through here. I don't know if I would have, I might have shot him. I'm getting kind of itchy to shoot one. But, yeah, he grunted a little bit. He's dogging her around. So maybe they'll end up circling back here if he keeps pushing her around. We'll see. But cool. We're getting into a little bit of rut action. was fucking around on my phone. He walked right past me right through here. I didn't even see him until he was there. I was researching shower caps. I was looking for something for putting over the camera when it rains. Because what I've been using, I'm not really too thrilled with. I don't think he saw me. Because he stopped and he was looking at probably a track or something right there on the trail, right in front of me. I don't think that he would do that if he knew I was sitting here. I don't know, hard to say. But I'm gonna let him keep walking for a while, see if he bumps some deer back towards me, and then I'm gonna pack up and get out of here. I feel kind of dumb. He walked right past me. It's windy, so I couldn't hear him coming. That's why my hood is up, because my ears were starting to get kind of cold. I suck at this. It's a good thing that wasn't a big buck. Alright, it's 11 o'clock. It's been about 25 minutes since that guy walked by, and apparently nothing bumped out this way. So, just for kind of more for my records than for you guys. But, so I was sitting here, and I heard a bunch of noise back in there. And those deer came right down this edge, right there. So the doe kept going and stopped about over there. That buck, he stopped right down there at like 60 yards. And I kind of think that this scrape right here, I kind of think he made it, because I don't think he was staring at me, because I wasn't moving. I got good cover up here. But he stopped down there and he was just staring straight up this way. And I think that if that doe had just stayed and milled around, because he was angled, he was coming up this way, I think he was going to work the scrape. I suspect that he made that scrape too. So, but during that time that he was kind of just slowly, he was looking up here and scanning. My wind was blowing back this way, so shouldn't have had any inkling that I was up here. But then that doe started taking off again, and then he went off after her. So I kind of think that doe screwed me. So they followed right up in through here, right up along there. And that guy is heading that direction too. And I suspect he's so this is kind of like a point, and then there's another point up there that I've sat in the past too. And I suspect that he's probably working his way up into that, unless he cuts this back into the big woods, which he could, but I think that's where them deer ended up, and that's where I was actually thinking about maybe hunting this afternoon. But now that he's gone up there, I think I may just do something different. So I'm gonna get packed up here, head back to the trailer, make some breakfast, and then go out and do some scouting. My pee is blue from taking that methylene blue. That guy's gonna come back scouting through here. He's like, oh, that scrape is, look how fresh that scrape is, how wet it is. All right, let's go see what he was looking at. Oh, there's another scrape right here. Yeah, cool. Some buck activity back here. Got a fresh rub here. I don't see what he was looking at. I suspect that maybe he was looking at some of these really bright red leaves, maybe thinking that it looked like blood or something. I'm not really seeing any tracks that are readable. So I'm not sure what that guy stopped to look at. It's a little yearling track. Yeah, I don't know. All right, well, I guess I'll leave this with him and he can go shoot that big buck. So I'm just doing a little scouting here, and I was walking by this kind of little jut out, and I pulled it up on the satellite just to check it out. And I was like, I don't know if I've ever been in there. So I'm walking back here and just came across this scrape, and there's a pretty nice track. It's kind of hard to make out on the camera, but there's a pretty nice track in there. I'm kind of wondering if that might be that buck we saw this morning too, because this kind of all connects, you know. So like, it's like if you followed this back up through there, you'd eventually get to where I was this morning. I'm getting kind of tight to some private property, so I'm gonna just walk this back to the line and just see if they got tree stands back here, or if there's any sign of anybody else hunting out here. This might be a spot for tomorrow morning. It's a really tight little pinch point. Doesn't have a ton of deer sign, but oh, there's fresh shit right there. It's still glossy. Yeah, so this is pretty fresh, man. There ain't any leaves in it, and the wind's been blowing this morning, so interesting little spot here. Oh, look at that. This is the exciting time of year. If you can get away from all the people, it's exciting. I'm gonna pick out a tree here for a future set. This would be a pretty easy one to get into in the morning. We got some more super fresh shit there. We got another scrape right here. Not a giant track, but a decent track. There's lots of good places to set up in here too. There's another scrape right there. I don't want to go any further because I'm getting pretty, like another 20, 25 yards. I'm back to the property line. And man, now my wind is kind of, no, it's still blowing this way. Because if I come back here, I want to come back to where I stopped walking last. You know, I don't want to expect a deer to walk over top of my scent trail to get to wherever I set up, you know. I don't think I'm going to hunt this afternoon, but maybe. We'll see. Kind of a neat little, it's like you walk through a kind of big area to get back into the woods. And then once you get back into the woods here, you know, everybody wants to keep going and get into the woods a little bit, but this is like right where the woods begin. So I feel like a lot of people would just walk right past this, you know, thinking they want to get in the woods a little bit instead of being right on the edge. So I could see this being overlooked for sure. Nice. Oops. So we got one scrape right there, and then there's that little scrape that was over there. I stopped walking about right there. And I'm kind of looking at this right now. We got the wind coming back this way. So I'm thinking that oak right there, if a guy got into that, kind of right about where them branches are, put the stand facing this way, so you got that as your back cover. That gets you out away from things. You're looking at to this scrape here, probably about a 27-yard shot, I would guess. Into that one there, you're probably a little over 30, probably 35. So right to that opening, got good shooting. Preferably, I'd like to be a little bit further back, but being as hardy, come walking up all through here. If I come back and I hunt this like a different week, like when I take my Rut-cation next week, maybe I'll pop back over there a little bit. Sit a morning here. I like sitting in this area in the mornings. I never really seem to see shit out here in the afternoons. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go over by that tree and just kind of make sure everything looks good from there, and then get the hell out of here. All right. So I was walking back towards the truck, and I noticed this pretty heavily used trail coming back into an area that I've hunted once before. Didn't have any luck, but I always see a lot of deer in this area. I turkey hunt in this area a fair amount, so I see a lot of deer. So I'm walking back here, and I didn't get very far off the trail, and I hit this scrape here. And that is a big track. There's some small ones, but that's a big track. I mean, just look at the difference between that yearling and that. So I'm gonna keep scouting this back. So what this is it's a old clear cut. It's kind of overgrown, and there's some just ever so slight little ridges where they left some standing oaks, so those drop acorns. And that's where I've hunted back here before in the past, this early season, when they're dropping acorns. And there's just so many acorns here, it's hard to pick a tree where the deer are going to show up, you know. But that's a dandy of a track. So I'm going to follow this back here and see what we get into. It's super fresh, but it's nothing special. It's probably, center of that is probably about my knee. But so these are the mature oaks that they left on these just kind of real small ridges. I mean, it's only a couple feet difference between the lowland and the highland here. I'm gonna walk these ridges kind of back towards the truck and see what we come up with. I know, so when I hunted this a couple of years ago, the oaks really didn't have that great a sign. But once I got on this far point back towards the truck, I was running into a lot of deer sign back in there. So I'm kind of expecting the same thing to be the case this year, that they're bedding in all the surrounding stuff, spending most of their time and just kind of coming up in here to feed a little bit now and then. So we'll see what we come up with for sign here. All All right, so I decided this afternoon I just wanted to do something new. Instead of hunt those scrapes and stuff that we found on that little neck down piece of woods in the big woods. Anyhow, regardless, so a couple weeks ago I hunted a stand and I had the utility workers driving all around and stuff. So anyhow, that hunt sucked, but there saw a lot of deer, even though they were all running away. Since that hunt, I scouted that property a little bit more. Previous to that, I had put Cody down in there, and he saw a bunch of deer on his set too. So, and then Cody sent me where he had scouted some of this property too. So, out of this chunk of timber here, approximately 3/4 of it we've kind of scouted out. So today I'm gonna hit the last quarter of it and kind of work back into the quarter of it that Cody scouted, if I don't find anything good before I get into that far. So it'll be kind of interesting. So last weekend there really was not much buck sign in here. There was a little bit of old historical rubs and stuff, but nothing that said there was big bucks in here or anything like that. But I did see a big mature buck cross the road into this piece last week. So I want to see if he's been in here laying down sign. So we kind of got like we got a guy walking around right here. So he's I'm gonna talk to this guy. Are you going to get a deer, or are you hunting, or? Okay, just wanted to figure out where you're gonna be so I didn't screw you up. I think he must be hunting on the private land and using the public to get into his property, because where he pointed was private, and he's walking back here in camo, but with no bow or tree stand or nothing. So whatever, it doesn't matter. So anyhow, this piece of property kind of lays out. There's higher ground where it's old clear cut, overgrown. It's kind of like a lot of scrub oak and shit like that. And then the lower part, that's why I scouted this previous weekend, where I was down in the river bottom and stuff, or not river bottom, but I was down in the creek bottom and kind of maneuvering around and stuff. So anyhow, just can't get away from people. This is way better than it would be back home, though, I can tell you that. Oh, this morning hunt. So I went out this morning, and there was another truck in the parking lot when I got there. And I got there plenty early. And when I came out, that truck was gone, and there were 2 additional vehicles there. So who knows how many people were in there today. So, okay. Well, whatever. Now that we've talked about everything, we're up to date. I suppose I should go hunting. It's 2:30 right now. Should do some scouting. Boy, they're really making a lot of scrapes. Last weekend, I couldn't find a single scrape, and I was looking all over the place. How many have we found today? At least a dozen. So this is kind of the area that I'm talking about here. So crazy. There were no big tracks in that scrape though. They were just all intermediate. Here's another scrape. Same thing. None of the tracks in there were big. It's crazy. It's crazy how it just, one weekend to the next, is just totally different. Totally different in the deer woods. only walked 150 yards from the truck, and I've already found like 6 scrapes. And this one over here is actually a decent sized scrape too. I am really tempted to just set up over here. I think what I'm going to do is keep walking and see if I can continue to find this type of sign and just try to do a little bit of kind of low impact scouting, kind of keeping it mostly on these trails. And hey man, I'm not afraid to come back here and hunt right next to the truck. There's plenty of bedding in here. No reason I couldn't be here. In fact, I did find a pretty nice mature rub last year just north of here. There's a lot of deer trails kind of coming in and out of here. I kind of feel like a jackass because I'm sure that guy's hunting in here somewhere. We're getting right up to his private property boundary. But I'm walking on a trail. It's not like I'm just intentionally walking through woods. I'm just walking on the main entry trail. That one's worked in a little bit better, but again, just small tracks in it. What the fuck? I wonder if that's 2 different people, or one guy has a camera on his camera. People baffle me. So anyhow, I'm in kind of a hardwoods flat here that's surrounded by that scrub oak and clear cut and stuff. And I just wanted to cut through this and see what there was for sign in here. Clearly it's on other people's radar. So I'm not going to be hunting this unless I find some dynamite sign. Get back into the scrub oak where you can't see far, where people aren't hunting. It's funny because anytime you find open hardwoods like this, I mean, this is ridiculously open. I wouldn't even want to hunt this, but that's like where everybody gravitates towards. It's like, dude, that ain't where the deer are. Whatever. They can learn that for themselves. It's not my problem. That's one bed. That's the other one's bed over there. I had to stop and take a poop. And I didn't bring any toilet paper, so I had to use oak leaves. remind me to put toilet paper in my bag. This is the dumbest setup that I've done, maybe ever. Definitely this year. I can't even know for sure. This is the dumbest setup I've ever done. But that's the road and the gate, and my truck is right behind that green bush to the left of the gate. I walked, scouted like 1.7 miles basically, big circle. Ended up back where I'm at, right next to the gate. I think it's somebody fucking around, but there is a giant rub. I can't tell if somebody made it with their climbing stick or not. There's like a tick that's like at my almost face height. So I'm thinking that like somebody did it with a climbing stick and tick the top bracket on the tree right there. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, this was ridiculous. Like, fucking, I hate that Dan, I think Dan Info was the first person to do it, but now there's been multiple people that have done it on like YouTube and shit where they make fake rubs on trees with their climbing sticks, and that like really pisses me off that anybody would do that, because this is hard enough as it is. And if you can't trust what you're seeing on top of that, it's like, what are we even doing out here? But anyhow, so right next to the truck. But the thing that threw me off, it was on the facing away from the road side of the tree, like away from the parking lot. So it's like, if you were gonna do that to mess with people, wouldn't you do it on the side facing the parking lot so that everybody would see it? But then like 20 yards away from that, there's a rub that's like really identical to that, but it's a couple years old. So it's like, well, what are the odds that somebody's been doing this, you know, over a course of a couple of years, making fake rubs? It's like, I don't know. So I was walking away from it, and I'm like, I'm gonna just totally disregard that. So I'm walking away, and I'm walking through this area here, and there's a reasonable amount of deer sign and poop and stuff in there. And then I jumped up a doe right in here. I'm like, fuck, you know, I'm really running out of time. It's getting late. I got like an hour. I'm like, fuck it. I'm just gonna set up right here. So I'm one stick high in this tree. It's sitting on top of a tree branch. My back bracket's not even touching the tree. Like, it's a good thing these bottom teeth on this thing really bite. But anyhow, if I shoot a deer out of this stand, I don't even know what I know about hunting at that point. We'll see. But I'm tired and I want to sit down and take a break anyhow, so I guess it really doesn't matter where I do it. Got the camera set up. Stupid. Can't believe we just saw a deer. Wow. All right, so now that we're walking out here, I'm right by the truck. And this is that rub that I was talking about that I'm not sure if somebody made this or not, but all the bark is right here. Here's the rub. But then way up here, you got this ticker up here. But you can see there's side raking on here, even on the back side. Both sides here. This is what really makes me doubt it though, because this is at my nose height. But I mean, if it is a fake rub, it's kind of legit the way that the guy did it. And then out that way, about 20 yards or so, there's a one that's a couple years old that's very identical. So it's kind of like, I don't know 100%. Like, I want to say it's not real, but it could be real. So, anyhow. All right, so now that I'm back in the truck, I'll tell you the story of tonight. So I ended up in that tree that I was quite embarrassed to be in, to be perfectly honest with you. But I'm sitting there, and it wasn't too long after I got set up, I heard, you know, when you hear it, you know it. I heard antler on dead trees, dead branches. You know, it's a pretty distinct sound. When you hear that, you know that you heard it. So I hear a little bit of clanking around, and that's like right in front of me. But then back over here, I hear some young buck grunts, some be it, you know, and out comes that nubby, and that nubby comes in, and he gets downwind of me, and he gets a little nervous, and then he hops away, and he's at like 35 yards or whatever, and he goes back into the area that I heard the clanking. So I'm sitting there, a little while later, over here comes out that little fawn. So I watch her for a while. She's right in front of me. Eventually she does get nervous, and she kind of just hops away. But she was out in front of me for a long time at like 6-7 yards. And so I'm sitting there again, and I can hear noise out in front of me where I heard that buck. And I heard antler clanking again. So about this time, it's getting pretty dark, and my alarm goes off for end of close. So I unknock my arrow. But I'm like, I got to find out what this is, because I can hear deer getting closer and closer to me. And then finally, I don't know if it was the nubby or if it was a doe. It was probably the nubby, but it comes out right here in front of me. And that's also at like 7 yards or less. But this is well into dark. It didn't have any antler on it. I know that for sure. But I could still hear whatever that other deer was back in the background. And then I thought I heard another one behind me, but at this point I couldn't really move around too much. So I kind of got covered up in deer tonight in that just stupid, ridiculous spot that you would think that most people that park here, a lot of them would end up walking right through there. So it's got a kind of a neat terrain feature that I wanted to get up into where I would have felt more confident in. But it was getting late, and it was going to be really loud to get in there because it's pretty thick. So that's why I ended up where I did. So I don't know, man. I actually am starting to believe that this would be a spot. I would not be afraid to sit that exact tree again. The wind was really swirling in there tonight. It originally was blowing straight back to the truck, which was good, but then it started kind of going all over the place on me. But I got my rut vacation coming up at the end of this coming week, and I might pick a morning and just sit in there. It might not be a bad idea. I really don't think, especially in the morning, I don't think it would be a bad idea. I think that's more of a morning spot than an afternoon spot. But man, I'm surprised. I saw a deer tonight. So, all right, we'll see what we get into tomorrow. is supposed to be blowing straight back that way. But instead, down into where I'm supposed to be. I got busted by the doe and the fawn, and then by this other fawn that came in from that way. And I was sitting here, I was like, I don't know if I should move or if I should just, try to be ready to shoot before they hit my wind. I don't have a shot from this direction, but I think I'm gonna move, and I'm gonna come straight through here, and I'm gonna set up. There. All right, so it's 10 o'clock. I started to pack up to move to that other tree, and then the wind started shifting again, and it got good for a while, and now it's kind of all over the place. It's good most of the time, but around 8:50, so like the exact same time that I saw the buck yesterday, I saw a different buck. I saw a basket rack that he was cruising this edge of that peninsula of trees out there. I kind of lost sight of him right back in here. I think he's still in there because every now and then I'll hear some noise from over there. But regardless, it doesn't really matter. He was not a shooter. So I haven't really seen nothing now for an hour. So I'm gonna pack up here and get packed up at the trailer and get ready for the afternoon hunt. This is how you know that hunting consumes my life. When I don't even have enough time to fold my laundry at home, I gotta bring it up north with me when I get downtime at night to fold laundry. It's like 4 loads right there. But we're getting into the rut. I'm hunting a really crazy spot. Again, I'm in this tree that is super unsafe. It's way too big. And it was very difficult to get the stand on. It was a real ordeal. But I got her kind of holding on here. So I got to be careful of what I do here. But I got the wind is right in my face. And this bowl here, this is that bowl that I've talked about in the past, where when I've gone in on several morning sits and sat that tree that was kind of right close to an access trail, I would see bucks in this bowl. And it's an area that nobody's ever going to hunt. It's just kind of a weird setup. It's right next to the road. There's hardly any trees to get set up in. And I hung back. I'm like, I don't know, 80 yards or so from the road. You can probably see it in the background right now. But I figured, what the hell, why not try something different? So I'm kind of hoping. I got a lot right in front of me. It's really vast. I'm gonna have to be super careful with movement tonight. I'm just gonna have to sit still. But I got no cover. I'm just like hanging off the side of this big ass tree. But I'm surrounded by really good bedding. So I mean, there could potentially be deer bedded less than 100 yards away from me right now, kind of completely surrounding me. So I am expecting to see deer. They may not come in range, but I'm expecting to see deer tonight. And I would not be surprised if a buck comes off this mound behind me. And I'm really hoping that he does and works right down in through here, or works right down in through here behind me to cross the road. I think some of these deer are bedding on the private property across the road. It seems like they're traveling that way a lot in the mornings. So my wind is kind of blowing back there. I'm kind of hoping that something might miss my wind, but now my wind is shifting and blowing right down that access trail. But there's a couple other access trails that way. So regardless, we're just going to kind of sit tight and see what we see today. Yep. All right, so it is October 28th, I think. I am heading back into the pizza slice bedding area. This time I'm going to hit the middle of it, the bulk of it. So I've hunted up front in the tip of it once, and I've hunted back in the crust of it twice. Yeah, twice. Yep, twice. I was going to say 3 times for some reason, but no, twice. So now this time I'm going to go right. We got a good wind out of the east, so it's going to blow my wind back out the way that I came in. And I'm going to go right into the middle of it where kind of the most cover is and the most tree cover and stuff. There were a lot of rubs and good rubs and scrapes in there when I scouted this area postseason last year. So I want to get up into the body of it where most of that sign was being made. So that is the plan, and we'll see how tonight's hunt goes. So see ya. Alright, so I'm just getting ready to cut into the cattails here to get into that bedding area. But we got some deer tracks coming right down here. This main walking trail here. And that ain't a bad track right there. So it doesn't, I think it looks a little bigger. Ooh, this ground is nice and warm. It feels good. But there's definitely been some deer movement through here the last couple of days, running up and down this trail. So hopefully they're cutting into this bedding area too. Nice. Alright, so I made it back to the bedding area. And I'd like to be out here a little bit further. But I really don't want to jump a deer and have a chain reaction going on in there. I got a lot of really good trails, and the thing is the wind was supposed to be coming straight like this, the way that I'm facing right now, but it's got a little bit of north in it, and I really think that there's going to be some bedding going on in that willow brush right there. It's still green. It's the only willow brush in this area that's still green. So I know that I can get up this tree. I'm actually looking at this one right here. And again, none of these have been sat in. It's wild. I can't believe there's not more hunting pressure back in here. But I haven't seen a tree back here yet that's been, trimmed in any manner whatsoever, or tree stand scores, or bright eyes or anything like that. So I actually set that bush right there when I came back in here the first time. Yeah, that's the one. That's where I ended up setting up off the ground. And like I said, I would really like to be back in here a little bit more, but I think the smart move is to sit back a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm as close as I can get without risking screwing things up. I haven't jumped anything yet, so I'm just going to get up here, probably one stick, maybe a stick and a half, depending on what it looks like once I get up there. But there's a nice shooting trail right here. So that willow point back in there that I was hunting that first time that we were back in here, down on the point of the pizza, the tip of the slice, there's trails that come up right through here, and I'll be able to shoot them from this tree before it hits my downwind, provided the wind doesn't keep cutting that way if it kind of stays back into the east here. So yeah, I'm gonna slip up this guy here and kill a big one tonight. I would be so mad because I got a week and a half vacation planned. If I killed one the day before I take off for my vacation, then there's pointless to take a vacation. So we're holding out for a big one. All right, so I'm all set up, ready to go. I wish I was closer, but I just can't do it. I keep thinking about moving up. This wind is just kind of cutting it too close. I just can't get any closer than I am. So, all right, it's time to get still. Possums don't like human scent because that thing hit my ground trail and was out of there. All right, so last night when I was hunting that bedding area, the pizza slice shaped bedding area, and I worked into the middle of it, I did not see anything last night. However, I'm not willing to say that it's not because it's a good spot. Well, I left this part out. When I was pulling into the parking lot, you can park on both sides of the road, and there was a bird hunter that was packing up on the other side of the road. So it's quite possible that he might have hunted where I was in there with his dog earlier in the day. So that could be why I didn't see no deer, or there might just not have been no deer in there. I don't know. It's hard to say. But so that was last night. So tonight I'm hunting a totally different new piece of property. Never scouted it, never been here before, nothing. But it looks pretty interesting. It's pretty kind of swampy grass and a lot of this type of trees, whatever you want to call that, where there really ain't much to get into. So I'm gonna work back to a spot on the trail that on the satellite map that looked pretty interesting, where there's a creek and some kind of funnels kind of come together, and there's a bunch of trails. And most likely, from what I'm seeing here, I'm gonna end up hunting off the ground tonight. But I'm gonna take the stand back there with me. Just if I can get into a tree, I will get into a tree. So okay, and then we're heading up north for over a week and 4 days. I can't wait. So, all right, see ya. All right, so we just found our first bit of sign. And for the amount of ground we covered, this is pretty disappointing. That, I mean, I've only gone 0.2 of a mile, but it's through some good bedding. There's another rub right there. But they're just small little rubs. So yeah, I'm pretty disappointed with the amount of sign. There were some boot tracks coming back in here, but I'm off of them now. I haven't seen any boot tracks in a little bit. It's pretty nasty getting back here. It was really that suction mud where it was trying to pull your boots off, and it was like really unpredictable. Like you could have a firm foot on one spot and the next spot would look good, and you'd step in it and right down. Like holy shit. So it was really tedious getting back here, but now I'm back here and I'm not seeing good signs. So I'm gonna work this out to where there's more trails. It doesn't work out as well for the wind, but future me is gonna find this information more valuable than just me stopping hunting here, probably not seeing much, and then walking back out the way that I came. I'd rather have this in-season scouting. So I mark all my treks so that, you know, when I'm hunting, like in season, I'm trying to decide where I'm gonna go. I hit the trek and I'm like, oh yeah, I walked through here, you know, and I made these marks and I made that trek on, you know, peak rut, you know, or right before peak rut or whatever. And it's like, this is what I found in there. It was good in there in this area. So then, you know, you can hunt that later versus just hunting. You know, scouting is way more valuable to yourself in the future. So I'm going to continue scouting until I find a spot worth hunting, because this ain't that, not for me. All right, so I never really did come across anything that I thought was that great looking, but there are a lot of deer trails on this property, and there's a lot of deer tracks in them. There's just not a lot of buck sign. So I don't know, it's an area that probably holds does, so I mean, we're getting pretty close, so why not have a buck come in here and check it out, even if he doesn't live in here, you know? That's kind of the theory. So I ended up right on the property line. We got an egg field over here, and then out in front of me, this is all the public. I'm set up off the ground right here. That's my setup, just the Ranger with the sticks wedged underneath the seat. And not going to be running a main camera, so if by some crazy chance I get one tonight, it's just going to be off the GoPro, and if it's even close to dusk, the fucking GoPro sucks. So alright, grab my bow here and get still. Not a bad deer. Pretty cool. Well, that was a pretty exciting hunt. Good way to start out the vacation. I haven't even made it up north yet. Just hunting a piece on the way up. hopefully the footage saved, because when I tried to review it on the GoPro after I got back to the truck, it wasn't showing up. So but files get kind of funny that way when you're running looping on GoPro. So hopefully it's on the SD card when I put it in the computer. But I ended up sitting on the ground tonight, just kind of basing it off of deer trails, looking at satellite maps. And I didn't even walk forward into the area that I was hunting. I just stopped where I was at. I seen that there were some nice trails that were going to be coming out right in front of where I was at. Sat there. It wasn't too long. I heard some branches breaking back into the thick stuff. And a nice mature doe comes walking out. She does peg me. But like, she didn't really know what I was. She just knew that I wasn't right. And luckily, she kept going the direction that she was heading, and she didn't turn back and go back the way that she went. Behind her was another nice mature doe, and I heard antlers on branches. So I knew that there was a buck back there. So I just stayed, held tight, and I think he was a 10-point. He was 10-ish. Nice deer. He was probably about like that. Not what I want to shoot, but he was getting real close, man. I was thinking about shooting him. He was 10 yards. He just went right by me at 10 yards broadside, and I let him go. And shortly after that, I heard another deer pass behind me on my downwind. It never blew at me or nothing, but I heard a deer come from behind me. I never saw it. A little while later, I'm sitting there and I can hear 2 bucks just tickling antlers, just, and it'd be quiet for quite a while, and then you hear, and they were close. I mean, they were like 25 yards, but there was a big bush in between me and them, and I couldn't see them. So I just sat there ready to go the whole time. Figured they were small bucks because I didn't hear like any pushing, any like real struggle. They were just kind of tickling each other. So then that 4 corner 5 or whatever he was, I really didn't pay much attention. I just seen that he was not a shooter. And he come by, and then he kind of swung right into me. He was at like 5-6 yards, and he busted me, and I hopped off. And whatever that other deer was, I never saw it. It never came out, but there was another buck back there. So pretty exciting hunt, man. I had 4 deer sub 10 yards. And 3 of them were mature deer, 2 mature does, and that buck was, he's probably a 3-year-old, I bet. So, yeah, exciting, man. When you're on the ground with them, eye level with them, and they're walking right past you at that distance, it's exciting. So, walked out, didn't bust anything on the way out. So this is an area that I'm probably going to come back to and check out. I'm for sure going to dissect this scouting a little bit, and I think the deer are going to hold up in here late season. So I'll probably end up late season hunting this a couple of times. So that's it, man. It's time to head up north for a while, for like a week and 4 days I think I got here, and hopefully knock something big down up there. And then I'll be done buck hunting in Wisconsin. I'd like to make it back out to North Dakota. But, yeah, cool hunt. Busted. Back there this morning, I got busted by a doe. I could hear her. I could hear her walking around a little bit, and then it was quiet for a long time. I turned around and made a little bit of movement, and she hopped off. I was like, but anyhow, I got in here before legal hours this morning, so I've been sitting since before light. And that's the only deer I've seen. It's the only deer that I've heard. So what I'm gonna do here is This is the second time that I sat this tree this year. I'm gonna, on a previous year's hunt, I was sitting a couple trees back, and there's this opening between here and, you know, this island of trees and there. And on that particular hunt, I was seeing a lot of deer crossing back and forth. Bucks, they were chasing. Not chasing, but they were cruising. So I've never actually been back there. So I'm gonna pack up right now and I'm gonna scout the side of this bedding back into that point and see what it looks like. I wanna see if there's any scrapes or rubs back there. And then maybe sit on it for a little bit or come back for the afternoon or a different morning. So I'm gonna get packed up here and we'll go check that out. All right, so I'm walking through and I'm scouting that little narrow strip that I was talking about just a minute ago. And I just got in here and there's a really nice rub here. It's super fresh. This tree is still, I mean, this was like from last night or this morning. It was like definitely within 2 days for sure. But I mean, that's fresh. All the bark is laying right there on top of everything. The leaves have been falling. There's no leaves falling on top of any of that bark. This is a spot that I'm gonna want to get into somewhere close to here. Pretty cool. I'm gonna keep scouting along here and see if we find any more of these rubs. So I'm walking this this old 2-track that's back in the woods here. I never realized it was back here, so I'm walking it back to another main trail that I did know about. I'm kind of taking a big roundabout way back to the truck. But so we scouted out the rest of the way to where I'm at now, and there's some really good like beat down trails or like worked in trails, but they haven't been getting used lately. There are no tracks on them. So I'm walking this old 2-track back and we just come across somebody's ladder stand here, probably a gun stand facing this little opening here. But so I always like to, whenever I come across somebody else's stand, I always mark it on my Onyx. I just use purple for other people. So I'm gonna mark this and just keep walking. I have not found a single scrape back here. So, I mean, we got that nice rub, so I know there's a good one in here right now. But if I don't start coming across a bunch of scrapes, I'm gonna focus the rest of the early part of my vacation on the areas where I know there's a lot of scrapes, where they're gonna be more prone to be hitting scrapes. My buddy Cody, he was hunting probably about 500 yards or so from where I was at in an area, from where I was at in an area that me and him hunted and scouted together last year a little bit. And he's hunting some scrapes in there. So I know there's some scrapes kind of in the woods here, but not many, not like I was finding last weekend. So I'm gonna mark this thing, keep walking this trail, and if I don't come across more scrapes, I'll show you if I do. But I'm gonna be focusing a couple miles away on another piece of property. There's always something to do, I tell you. Go back to the trailer, I guess, and put some air in this tire and do some paperwork for work, and then go out and do some more scouting and hunting, or just hunting. We'll see what time it is by the time I get done. Alright, so I'm walking back into a wood lot that I hunted a little bit last weekend. I hunted it the 2 different mornings, Saturday and Sunday morning last weekend. And I'm going to a new part of it. I've scouted a decent amount of this piece, but it's a really, really big piece. So there's a lot of boot tracks back here. There's been a lot of guys back here this recently. So this might not be the best move that I'm doing, but I want to give it a shot. I'm going to hunt an area that I've scouted an area a few hundred yards away, and I marked it as bedding, and I remember going through it, and it was pretty decent stuff. I was looking at the satellite today, and an area near it and similar to it had a lot of deer trails and stuff that I could see on the satellite. I was like, you know what? The wind works out really good for that spot. So I'm going to go back there and hunt it, kind of scout my way into it and hunt it. So hopefully these guys are staying on the trail and continuing past the area that I'm going into. But we're about a mile away from the truck this evening. And see what it looks like when we get back there. So I just finished the bulk of the walk, and I just cut off the main walking trail to access back here. And we just come across our first bit of sign here. It's kind of old because the sap on there is not sticky. It's already kind of balled up and crystallized a little bit. And it's not really a very high rub, so it's nothing too special, but it shows that there's deer back here. Right? There's deer in the woods. Who would have figured? But so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna keep working up this way, and we got a lot of thick grass and brush and swamp. It's a bunch of wooded fingers kind of all come together, and then there's hardwoods like what we got in front of me right here. And I'm actually not gonna be too far off of this big clear cut. I'm just gonna work in to kind of the main body of a kind of a bump out little point. It's not really a point, it's kind of more like a half circle. And I'm gonna probably sit in the middle of it so I can keep my wind back in case they come in, kind of cutting the edge of my wind. And it'll kind of give me the most potential to have a shot on stuff, I guess. We'll see what it looks like when we get back there. That's pretty dried up too. It sure ain't like the one we found this morning. That one was fresh. So, all right, I'm gonna keep going. We're really starting to get into a lot of little rubs here. We got that one right there. There's another one right there. There's another one right there. There's another one over there. Some little bucks in here running around, causing trouble. So at least we might get to see some deer tonight. We're getting pretty close to where I'm gonna start cutting in. And the good thing is I haven't seen any boot tracks since I got off the main trail. And we're getting back in here, and there's not a lot of deer tracks, but there's definitely deer tracks that are pretty fresh. They're not real big. I haven't really had a whole lot of buck sign for probably the last 200 yards or so, but we do have one rub. It's right there. It's not a bad rub. It's not super fresh, but so I'm gonna be working in to the middle of this. hopefully find some scrapes in there towards the point and get set up, and hopefully something comes in. I'm gonna whack a doe tonight if I get the chance, if it's a big and alone. So, all right. So I'm getting into this point here. There's deer sign in here. It's nothing crazy, but there's deer sign. There's fresh shit. There's not really much for rubs or scrapes. There's none. There's no rubs or scrapes that I've seen so far. There's probably some along the edges, but I don't want to get to the edge because I don't want to bump deer out of that bedding. Because essentially that's what I'm hunting, is this thick bedding that's all around the perimeter here. So right up in here we got kind of like a crescent shaped piece of woods that comes off of that. I kind of feel like that might be a travel route. So I normally like to find more cover than this, but I like that there's kind of a clump of trees right here. I'm gonna slip up. Boy, it looks really naked on the camera. But I'm gonna slip up in this tree right here, and I'll be able to shoot anything coming out of that crescent, anything working its way down through here, anything that comes this way. My wind is gonna be blowing this way, so my wind is actually like this. So we'll see. Provided I can make it another 30 yards to that tree without busting anything out of there, I'm gonna sit. If I bust something, then I'll probably keep scouting. Okay, so I'm all set up. I'm not really digging the stand location or the stand height, to be honest with you, but we'll see. I feel like I got too high up in the tree where I'm really broadcasting, like any deer that was out there kind of bedded where I thought they were bedded, like could see me going up the tree. It's one problem with getting too high, but that's something that I've fucked up on a lot. Took me an embarrassingly long amount of time to realize one was high enough and not to hunt too high. I learned that in hill country. That's where I really learned that. But the wind was being pretty squirrely earlier. It was kind of doing funky shit. It was blowing that. So it's supposed to be blowing this way, but it was blowing that way, and it was blowing that way. So, but for now it seems pretty even. So behind me, you can see that old clear cut that I was walking alongside of earlier. We got a see if I can get this thing to focus. There it goes. Where's that rub? We got a pretty fresh looking rub out there. It's kind of hard to see. I didn't walk out there by it. It's probably at about close to 40 yards, probably just under 40 yards. No scrapes that I can see from the tree. But like I said, not really feeling too great about this spot, but I've been proved wrong plenty of times, so give her a shot. I'm letting my body cool off before I put my coat on for the evening. Okay. This is where he was standing. This is this track. You know, it really doesn't look super impressive. There it is again right here. It goes from there to there. I'll tell you the story when I get back to the truck. All right, so let's talk about tonight's hunt. There's not going to be a lot of video of the deer, but I'll tell you the story and I'll kind of explain. I could have tagged out, and there are a couple different ways that I could have done it. So as I was walking in and I was kind of showing you guys these old rubs and stuff that were kind of coming in on the side of this clear cut. So I'll show you my onyx here. And this whole area here, this is the edge of a big clear cut. And this is the track that I came in. So when I was showing you that rub line as we were coming in, that was kind of along this area. And then it dried up. And then we had a rub here. And then, so what I did is I came in, we had a wind that was out of the northwest. So, northwest. So it was coming like this. So in the video, I'm talking about this crescent shape. And this was the crescent shape that I was kind of hoping that there'd be deer bedded on. And they'd come in through here. And then also, if I zoom in here, there's a whole bunch of trails that are kind of all over the place, cutting through this grass from this stuff. So that's why I kind of hung back, because I didn't want to get up here and have my scent drifting over here. And it did. My scent at one point was blowing out here. It was blowing out here most of the time, but at some point it actually kind of came out here for a little bit. But so anyhow, I'm sitting there, and it was probably about 15 minutes till close, and I hadn't seen anything. And I was kind of like, this sucks. So, but I was watching the old 2-track from when they made that clear cut that's all overgrown now. And I even considered just sitting right on it, because, you know, that whole clear cut is bedding too. And I'm kind of sitting on kind of the fringes of what I'm expecting to also be bedding. So I'm kind of like in between two bedding areas is the way to look at it. But I thought about it. I was like, man, maybe I should just hang back and just sit right on this old 2-track that there weren't any people tracks on. So that was option number one that I could have done, and I would have killed that buck tonight, because he was walking right down that trail. My wind would have been perfect, and I would have had a chip shot at him just walking down that trail. He was just cruising. So what I did is I'm sitting there, and I seen him, and I caught him a little bit late. When I seen him, he was probably, my phone was dying on battery. He was coming down through here. And when I saw him, he was about like right here, all right? So we'll do this with the mouse. So what I did is I let out a series of tending grunts. And I'll show you what I did is I just went. Like that. Basically pretending that I was a young buck with a doe. And I did just loud enough so that he was hear it. I was blowing it away from him because I wanted him to think that I was further away than I actually was. And man, I'll tell you what, he stopped, he looked, and I didn't stop blowing while he was looking, because I just basically I mimicked that buck that walked right past me last night. He was tending those does, and he was just burp, burp, burp the whole time. So that's what I was pretending to be. And he stopped, he looked, and then he just didn't come charging in, but he just come walking in with, you know, like, I'm coming in to see what's going on. It was a fast walk. It wasn't a trot, but it was a fast walk. So he comes in, and we'll zoom in a little bit here. He comes in from here, basically making a straight line to me, and he hits my scent trail right there. He hit where I walked in, and he held up. As soon as he hit it, he went from just a kind of like a fast walk to put on the brakes, and that was it. He was done. He just stood there and looked around. So if I had seen him earlier when he was coming down this way here and called to him sooner, he would have come in right like this. And this was actually more open, easier walking. He was kind of walking through thick stuff to get over here because I called at him too late. Now, I'm sitting in the stand just like I am here, and he's coming in from over here, and I'm trying not to move. I got my bow is right down here, so I got my bow up out of it, and I'm holding it, kind of resting it against my leg, and I'm watching him, like side-eyeing him, so I couldn't really focus my eyes on him too well. So I really didn't get a great look at his rack. I think it's very possible that buck was the buck that I saw last Saturday morning when I was here. That wasn't super far away. It was, I don't know, maybe 600 yards or so, maybe probably more than that. But, in the same general woodlot, though. And the way that he was going actually would have brought him back the direction that I seen him originally. If it's the same deer. I don't know that it is. But he had a pretty decent rack from what I could see. So he held up right there. And I set my phone alarm to vibrate in my pocket for the close of the season at the minute every day. So my alarm goes off. I know that I'm done hunting because, I'm filming. So I'm not shooting a deer a minute after because I'm literally making evidence of it. And everything on your phone and whatnot is all time stamped. So I'm just sitting there watching him. After he's been held up for like 15 minutes or so, my alarm goes off. So I silence my alarm. We just sit there and I watch him. Another 10 minutes go by. And I'm just hoping that he would just walk by me because I really wanted to just get a good look at this deer since I had been kind of watching him out of the corner of my eye this whole time. And it finally got to the point where I couldn't see him anymore. It was dark. So I'm like, well, at this point, I got nothing to lose. So I got that lens on my camera that lets in a lot of light, and it really does a good job. So I was like, screw it. I just, I'm like, I'm not worried about getting busted at this point. I'm going to bust them one way or another. So I put my bow in the bow holder, grabbed the camera, turned it over, turned it on, recorded them a little bit. And the camera, the footage is probably going to be a little grainy or whatever, but I can't even see that deer with my eyes. And the cameras, you can see the deer in the camera. So it's pretty impressive. It's really impressive. So that was tonight's story. Oh, and then during that time, I don't know if I called in this second deer or if it was just a fluke. But so I'm sitting like this, looking at this deer, and I can hear something from behind me. When I ask people what they see, if they don't ask me back what I see, I never answer them. So he told me he didn't see nothing, and then I didn't answer. So then it's been an hour later, he just texted me. He's like, so what did you see? So anyhow, I'm telling you right now, so you guys know. I hear this other deer. While he's hung up over here, I hear another deer behind me, and I can see him looking at it. I couldn't move enough to actually see it. So once I started packing up, that deer jumped off, and even then it was too dark. I couldn't see what it was. So anyhow, that's the explanation of tonight's hunt. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Dude, so the first parking lot I was going to go to, there were 3 trucks in that. And I was like, well, That's a big area too. I was like, there's plenty of room for me, but I was like, I'll just kind of let them guys have that. I got another spot that works out good for this wind. So I drive to that, and there's fucking 3 Amish buggies out there. There's really not even like that many Amish in the area. I think that's the first time I've ever seen them out in the wild. I've seen them at like they like to sell at one of the local grocery stores. They sell a little fruit stand type deal, but bastards. So I don't know what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna keep driving until I come up with another idea. It's starting to get light. Alright, so I'm driving back into this area here, and I'd already decided I was just gonna scout it. But I'm driving down this back road here, and a really nice buck. I don't know if he had a ton of points, but he did have a lot of width to him. And he didn't really look very massive. He looked kind of thin, but he was a big deer, really big deer. Just crossed the road into this piece here, and I'm gonna go kind of still hunt it a little bit. I gotta check my onyx quick. So as I was saying, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna still hunt this piece this morning and do some scouting. And I'm gonna leave my stand and sticks behind. I'm just gonna kind of still hunt my way around in here. So, all right, I'm just getting off the road here. I'm gonna jump out, and there's one other vehicle down at the end of this road. So I'm gonna try to stay away from him. I'm gonna probably stop in about in the middle of this thing, in between him and me, and kill a giant buck. All right, see ya. Chasing this morning. I got a shot at that big one. If they're gonna be running around in here like that. Damn it. I didn't see if it was that buck or not, but I just busted a good-sized deer. That was right where I expected him to be coming up out of. I just got done calling for a little bit. Right back in that scrub oak behind me. Started to walk a little bit more after sitting for 15 minutes or so. And I saw the tail. I couldn't make out a rack, so I don't know for sure that it was him or not. So we're kind of in the area, straight in from where that deer cut in. And I looped around to get here. I was trying to call him in. I called at a couple different places. Spooked a bunch of deer, like 5 or 6 deer I'm up to right now. So I'm getting back into this kind of open area here, and we got somebody's bright eye right there, and then there's another one on that tree back there. But this is definitely part of the area that deer is running. We got one of his rubs right there. There's another rub back there between those 2 trees right there. I just keep scouting my way through, but he's definitely, this is part of his run. I'm kind of looking to make sure that other guy that was in the parking lot isn't in here hunting. If he is, he parked in the wrong place for the wind that we got to walk into here, but you never know with people. This is a really good rub. The top of that rub is at my chest. It's a historical rub too. It's been rubbed down there in the past years. Let's go check out this other one. So we got an old historical one right here. We got another historical one up ahead of here. Not quite as fresh. It's not as impressive as that other one either. But what this tells me is this is definitely a run right through here. You know, you got all these rubs coming in a line straight, going up the hill, and then dropping down into this thick. I might come back here and sit this in the morning, or maybe even an afternoon later in the week. We'll see. I want to go back and look at that first one. That was pretty impressive. So you can see on here, it's got sap. It's still tacky, but it's starting to harden a little bit. So this rub isn't like super fresh. It's got to be at least a couple of days old. But I mean, it's a pretty impressive rub. I just wish that this guy didn't have an access trail right through here. It kind of takes away from it a little bit, you know, knowing that somebody else is walking right through the area. I'm gonna keep scouting along here. This is good information though. I've only walked one line through this piece before, and it just happened to be the exact trail that deer crossed the road into, so that's why I was pretty confident in setting up where I did, calling, because when I scout through the woods, when I'm just going through a chunk of woods, I always kind of follow the deer trails and follow the natural terrain of how I think a deer might travel. So that way when I look back at my onX, I can kind of see the way the movement looks like it goes through a piece, rather than just kind of like zigzagging through a piece. Just kind of follow the deer movement, kind of like a current. And that way when I set up, I can just set up on the edges of that current. Cool, we're getting into some fun stuff here this morning. This is a big hill. You can actually kind of see it right here through it. There's a saddle up there. And I wanted to go up there and scout it. But I just come across, oh, there's some turkey tracks too. I didn't see that. But I come across this guy's tracks coming from that direction where there was a vehicle parked. So he's probably up in that saddle. And I don't want to mess things up for him, you know. I'm just walking around scouting. There's no reason for me to go bust through where I think he's at. So I'm just gonna bypass that area for now and kind of just keep on scouting down here closer to the road. It's where a lot of deer are anyhow. So might as well just stick with the deer. Leave the people alone. But I haven't found any like giant tracks, but I found a lot of mature tracks, like nothing that's like really digging into the ground, you know, like heavy weight on it in the sand, but a lot of good sized tracks. So I mean, that's actually a dew claw back there, so that's a smaller track that it looks like, but you'll just have to take my word for it. There's a decent amount of good tracks in here. Where to go? What to do? Alright, so I'm walking the road right now. This is a hard packed gravel. And I just found where I'm pretty certain there's another set of tracks right there that could be it too. Maybe he's been running back and forth all night. But this is hard pack. And it's a good sized track. You can see the dew claws right there. There's another track right up here. Let's look at. Right in the middle of a hard pack. That's a heavy deer to do that. Yeah, in fact, he crossed the road and he stopped right there. And he stood there and watched me drive by. Yeah, so one of these two tracks, it's got to be this one. That's where he cut in. I'm going to follow this and just kind of see where he goes, see how it feels, see if I still come to the same conclusion that I did when I scouted this in the spring. So I'm not more than 50 yards off the road right now, but I'm just kind of eyeballing it. You know, if I was a buck, where would I want to travel? And I was just kind of doing that. And I was checking underneath this tree for scrapes, and there are no scrapes. But I come across this rub. It's a nice rub. It takes he had to be pushing pretty hard to dig them grooves in there. And I'm looking down this. There's another trail over there that goes through the more wide open. And I was kind of wondering if he was taking that. But when I found this rub here, I'm looking down this trail. And what I like about this trail here is it's kind of like in a low area. And you can see that it's wide enough where he can get his rack through this stuff pretty easily and still be in good cover and still be, not visible from it much of a distance. I'm going to keep following this. I think this is going to run me right into that last rub line that we found earlier on the back side of this. All right, so I followed this in another 80 yards or so from where that rub was. and I immediately started to recognize the area. So I was up over there, and I jumped a deer that was down over here that I just saw the tail of. That had to have been him. He came right up through here, and I was calling up there, just real soft grunts, nothing crazy. And I must have caught his attention, and he must have been standing right over here watching that area, because I got up and I just barely moved, just a little bit, and a deer took off, and I couldn't believe it, because it's like I've hardly moved at all. It's like, how could I have jumped a deer already? It was him. So now I know that deer took off that direction. So he probably ran. I didn't cut his tracks on that main walking trail, so he might still be in here. But that's a squirrel. But I might have just missed it, or he might have just kind of jumped over it. So I know he was in here. I know where he was at. And I'm pretty confident I bumped him out of here. So I like this area in here. It's kind of all surrounded by thick, but we get a little bit of opening in here. So I'm gonna pick out a tree. In fact, maybe that tree right there. It's got a good amount of cover. You would not be able to see me walking down this trail until you got to over there. And if you cut this way, I'd have a shot too. I'm gonna walk over by that tree and check it out. That'd probably be a good morning spot. This is a tree. I like it too. So probably not gonna want to be very high in it, but you got good shooting all the way around you. It's gonna be tough because there's gonna be a lot of cover looking through this stuff, but you're gonna be really concealed. And you also got kind of a natural funnel coming down through here too. So I'm gonna mark this on my Onyx. It does look like this is gonna run right up towards that other rub line too. I can't believe there's not any scrapes, because this would kind of be like a thermal hub, the way that everything's pulling down into here. Squirrel. All right, so I'm gonna mark this tree on my Onyx, and I'm gonna map myself a way out back to the road that doesn't involve coming back down this trail where he crossed into. So that way when I come in here, he's not walking on my ground scent to get to me. I like it. This is gonna be a spot for later in the week. I'm gonna put a hunt in this. Lots of squirrels in here. So I was right inside of that scrub oak, right there. That tree that I picked out is right down there. I busted him right out of there. Maybe what I did. Probably needed to give it more time. A little bit of a learning experience. I set up back that way first, and I did some calling back over there, hoping to draw him out. And then sat there for a while. That was where I had those deer running around me, was back up in this corner over here. And I moved another 100 yards to this spot, and I did a little calling. I didn't wait as long as I should have. I kind of knew it then, and I really know it now. Well, that's how you learn, right? Seeing big bucks and messing up on them is the only way to learn how to hunt big bucks. It's not like hunting the young ones. I think that's a good setup, though. Cameras that I put in the spring. I haven't checked it yet. I might pull it down on the way out. I don't have a wire cutters with me though. Might have to try to bend the wire. I think I'm gonna set up out in that stuff out there a little bit. See what we see. Do a little light calling. Looked like it was a little buck. Was my little calling setup here. I sat here for about an hour and a half or so and really didn't I did not see anything, so I don't really hear any movement or nothing going on, so I'm gonna grab that camera on the way out, and then I'm probably gonna do some grocery shopping. I didn't notice this on the way in, but I'm noticing it coming out now. We got some pretty decent rubs here. There's one here. There's another one up there. And it appears, yep, that's a rub way down there. So there's some bucks running through here. So, and that camera is pretty close. It's, I don't know, somewhere. It's over here somewhere. I'm gonna find it here and hopefully got them bucks on camera. Oh, there's the camera. On that tree over there. So deer coming up out of here this way instead of going that way. Well, hopefully I still got them on there a little bit. No wonder I didn't see these because I cut in through over here. So these are going right up into a little high spot. And I almost set up right there. That's probably where I should have been. It's back over there. But this rub line is going right up to a mound that I got a camera on, and it's got some medium bucks, nothing even close to a shooter, that have been running through it lately. But good to know. So Kenny's a little bit of a hoarder's not the right word, but he doesn't like to get rid of anything. So Marie, his wife, is making him throw all kinds of stuff away, and he keeps smuggling it up here. This is like his secret little hiding place for all his old junk. And now I've been kind of helping him clean, purge things out of here. So he's talking about he's got to get a secret third property where he can hide all his stuff at, where it's safe from me and Marie. But so he smuggled his crock pot up here, and it was his treasure, and I'm getting ready to use it, which is cool. It's fine. I didn't care that it was up here at all. It doesn't matter to me. It's his place. But I'm just helping him get rid of all his useless junk. So I'm getting ready to, I washed this thing all out. I'm going to use it to cook a meal this week. And I look at it. Thing's a fucking fire hazard. So rather than edit video like I should be doing, I'm going to take this crock pot apart and rewire it so Kenny can keep his crock pot. All right, so I'm running through that trail camera that I just pulled, and I haven't gotten into the good stuff yet, but this is kind of a neat video. I've never seen a doe play with fawns like that before. Kind of neat. That ain't me. That's me. That's me taking it down. So, I didn't have a picture of a single big buck on there. A couple of little basket racks there were earlier before I started recording, but nothing too impressive. And I'm pretty disappointed that I got other hunters in there, because I didn't really think I didn't think that little tiny piece was going to get pressure like it is. And on the other camera, I got two cameras in that piece. I got one on the doe bedding, and then I got another one, this one, the one that I pulled, it's kind of down around the doe bedding, the way that a buck would travel to check downwind of that doe bedding. And I got people on both cameras. And it's just a teeny little piece, like off by itself. So I'm surprised, but so it's good to know. I'll kind of not waste my time in there at all. So, yeah. See that? That is fucking annoying. So I'm on some land here. It's it's part of a conservancy, and it used to be owned by a timber company at one time. And there's a lot of these locals that claim they have permission to drive back here. I think only a handful of them do, but I was kind of annoyed. I should have stopped and talked to him. I don't know why I didn't, to find out if he had dropped somebody off back here or what he was doing, because I'd hate to get back to where I'm going and have somebody back there. Stupid. Should have talked to him. I normally talk to people. There's no such thing as too much information. But what I'm doing right now is I'm heading back into an area that I've ran a camera on a scrape for like 3 years, and around this time a big buck hits it in daylight. Usually it seems like it's in the afternoon every year. In fact, if you watched last year's videos, that was the big 12 pointer hit it when I was originally going to go back there and sit, and for some reason changed my mind at the last minute and hunted a different area, and he hit it like a half hour before. It was more than that. It was like an hour before close. So I'm not actually gonna, I'd kind of like to, so here's the deal. I haven't run a camera in there at all this year, so I have no idea what's going back there. I haven't even been in this woodlot all year, so this is the first time I've been in here. And it's a long walk. It's a long walk down a trail, and then it's a long walk through the woods. So I might check that scrape to see if it still exists. I had been maintaining it the last couple years, so I don't know if the deer did it again naturally this year or not. But I was actually planning on hunting, not actually hunting the scrape, hunting quite a ways away from it, but the same general area. I was going to hunt where I think the bucks are coming from when they hit that scrape. But anyhow, so that's the plan tonight. Annoyed already. We got a beaver trail that runs right through here. Well, I'm hunting where I'm hunting because I always thought that this was one of the areas that those bucks hang out, where they bed. There's very little deer sign back here, so probably not going to see much tonight. But I always wanted to sit back here, so I'm sitting back here. It's the first time I've ever been set up on this thick part of the creek. It gets real thick back up into there for a little while, and I always thought that this was a good bedding area, but I'm not really digging how the beaver dam's got it kind of all backed up here. I don't know if the deer are gonna, they got a lot easier places to bed that are still thick, you know, versus going through all that muck. So, all right, we'll see what happens. It wasn't supposed to rain until 7 o'clock. End of close is like 8:15. I figured, I got plenty of time. I don't need to worry about the rain. Camera gear and rain don't get along. It's dying off a little bit. Hopefully it stays away for a little bit longer. All right, so I'm walking out right now. I did not see shit this evening. Didn't even think I heard a deer. Nothing, not even, no hope whatsoever. So, you know, this morning we learned a lesson that I already knew it. I just was anxious. Was when you're still hunting or calling, you got to give it time. So we kind of made that mistake. You know, it's easy to do. It's easy to go too fast when you're doing that type of stuff. But anyhow, so this evening, so late morning, and then again this evening, the mistake I made was I set up in areas that didn't really have that much sign. I was using what I knew off the landscape to to hunt those two different spots. You know, that late morning set, and now this evening. This evening more than the late morning. There wasn't any sign, you know. God, it's light out in the flash of this thing is blinding. You know, I think everybody is guilty of this at one point or another. You got an area, you think you know something, and you go in there, and the sign ain't there, and then you hunt it anyways. You know, maybe that might pay off once in a while, but it's not going to pay off consistently. You know, you can't go into areas where there ain't no deer sign and expect to see deer. It's just kind of common sense when you think about it. But it's a mistake that I made today, twice. So for the rest of this week, I got 9 days left. That is something that I'm going to be drilling into myself, that, hey, asshole, you're not setting up unless you can explain why you're setting up here. And it's got to be more than just what you think you know about the land, you know. So on top of all that, I got covered up in burrs on the way out tonight. I got one of them, I think they're called bear pads or burr pads or something like that. I haven't really used it yet, so we'll be experimenting with that at the trailer in a little bit. So anyhow, see you back at the trailer. I got a long walk out.